It is Thursday, November 3rd. This is Jaguars Happy Hour. And now, a guy who should receive hazard pay for working with Boselli, J.P. Shadrick.
Maybe we all should. Welcome in, Jaguars Happy Hour on a Thursday. It's week 13. The Jaguars face the Vikings. We have a busy show ahead, a Jaguars-Vikings preview. The Jags are headed to U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis for a 1 o'clock Eastern time kick against a team that's up against it in the NFC playoff picture. They need to win to keep hope alive for a wild card. The Jaguars are out of the race in the AFC, of course. We'll break down the game coming up. A little more on the aftermath of the Dave Caldwell firing after the game Sunday. Tony Boselli, speaking of, joins us at 4:30, and the Doug Marone Show at 5 o'clock. And the head coach will join us from TIAA Bank Field. Jeff Lageman with us now on this Thursday, as he is every week from the home studio. And here we are into December, Logs. 5 weeks left.
Yeah, we're kind of counting them down, right? I mean, it's 10 consecutive losses for this football team, and you're talking about now draft positioning with the general manager being fired. I mean, there's not a. I mean, it's kind of a somber type gloom, I guess you could say, around this franchise right now because it's not even in the conversation. You know, me and you were talking just a minute ago about how nice it is to get to December and talk about ways in which your team can get in the playoffs, and we're not having that conversation, and that's disappointing with this football team because, and I don't want to say we had high expectations. I mean, the expectations weren't very high to begin with because it's a young football team that the youngest roster in the National Football League. But the one thing you want to see is at least improvement, and I don't know if we could say that we're seeing improvement, I think, from early on when this team was getting boat raced by quite a few points and are more competitive the last couple of weeks. But it's not the most positive thing, JP, and that's the reality.
You know, I get those, to your point, I get those emails now, this time of year, where the league sends out playoff possibilities each week. If this happens, then Team A gets in the playoffs or gets this spot in the playoffs. And it's like, man, I can't delete those emails fast enough right now. I'll be honest with you. I'm just tired of seeing it.
I know. I mean, it's not easy, right? But it is what it is. And, you know, and I think that the fan base wanted to see some type of institutional change. And when I say change, I mean, there's got to be some type of change of leadership at the top. And after this past game with Dave Caldwell getting fired, I think that's obviously a step that will give the fan base hope that this thing can get better with the Jaguars, because when you have essentially what was 7 double-digit loss season under a general manager out of 8 seasons in which he presided over, that's not very good. And I think most people that are on the outside look at it, and I think they're very surprised that he was able to hold on to that job so long. Peter King wrote about it in his Monday Morning Quarterback, and he said just an amazing job that Dave Caldwell was able to hold on to his job. And look, I don't like beating up Dave Caldwell because he got fired, but the reality is this is a production-based business. And when you roll out 7 double-digit loss seasons, that production's not there. And when you go into the National Football League, and you want to be a part of the National Football League, whether it be as a coach or a personnel guy, you better have thick skin, and you also have the understanding that you could lose your job, and that job security is not one of the greatest attractive parts of working in the National Football League, and that's just the reality of it.
Track record on the draft side as well, not very strong at the top of the draft, of course. The first-round draft pick history here has not been great, certainly under Dave Caldwell's run here from 2013 to present. In that time, only 4 first-round draft picks remain on the roster. The guys picked the last 3 years, Brian, Allen, Henderson, Chason. The others are gone for different reasons. Jokel's out of the league. Blake Bortles got paid, and then he's on to Denver
Jokel's
now.
Been out of the league for a while.
That's right. And then, so you can go through those lists of guys. Dante Fowler is not around here anymore. Jalen Ramsey got traded last year. And then Leonard Fournette was cut at the start of this season. So He had some hits a little later in the draft, but you gotta hit on those big guys, the cornerstones of your franchise, and it just didn't work at the top of the draft for Dave Caldwell here.
No, and look, when you draft, it's not always just one guy making the pick. I mean, it's a group effort. You have your college director of college director of personnel, then you have different scouts at different levels, and so it is a little bit of a mix of people that come together to make that decision. But a couple surprising things. I mean, first and foremost, typically on a first round pick, look, that's the general manager's pick. And then once you get later in the draft, then he has a tendency to rely more on his scouts. And that's typical because a first round pick, I mean, that's your signature pick. General manager is not going to let anybody else make that decision but him. And with the Jaguars, when you have a first round pick, that's your highest percentage of being able to hit. And for the Jaguars, it hasn't been a very high percent. And for most organizations, that's a guy that you typically want to get into a second contract. That hasn't happened for the Jaguars. And so it's disappointing from that aspect, and that those are the foundational players. The draft is the lifeblood of any franchise, and if you're not picking well, and you're not picking well at the top, which is the highest percentage of success rate, then that's a problem. And too many times, this football team hasn't hit, and it's not just Dave Caldwell. I mean, you go back to Shaq Harris. I mean, this football team has not picked very well at the top of the draft, and this team has not been able to find a franchise quarterback in the draft, and you got to find one. I mean, that's look at the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs are sitting pretty, and they obviously got a generational player in Patrick Mahomes, but they knew the importance of the position to where when they had Alex Smith, they still drafted Patrick Mahomes. And Alex Smith was a really good player. I mean, one of the highest rated quarterbacks in the National Football League, and you still drafted Patrick Mahomes. Well, you go back to that same year, the Jacksonville Jaguars were coming off of a year in which they had Blake Bortles and they were winning despite him. And so it was a perfect opportunity to do what the Kansas City Chiefs did, and you didn't even have to trade any picks. All you would have to done is take them. And you didn't do it. And obviously, that's a big mistake, and I'm not even sure if the Jaguars did any work on quarterbacks that year because Dave Caldwell was still a big believer in Blake Bortles for some reason, coming off of the year that he had previously, which was terrible. And I like Blake. I mean, I think he's a good guy, and he's a tough guy, and he's a football player. But you're not trying to find football players to play quarterback. You're trying to find quarterbacks to play quarterback.
Obviously, you have to remember in that couple-year window, Tom Coughlin was at the top of the football world here as well. So that goes into that decision process for that 17, 18, 19 draft.
I'm not going there. I mean, and I think that's kind of been a little bit of a crutch. I mean, because Tom Coughlin.
Well, it's the truth. It's the facts.
Well, it's a fact that he had the ultimate say so. But did Tom Coughlin go over to personnel and say, okay, I'm running the personnel department? Tom Coughlin got more involved in coaching than he did in personnel. So I don't think Tom Coughlin was in there putting his hands in personnel saying, we're picking that guy, and we're picking that guy, and we're picking that guy, and I don't care what you think. I don't think that was happening. So the reality is that, with Tom Coughlin being involved for a couple of years, I don't know if that ended up buying Dave Caldwell some extra time or what, but the reality is that he was able to stick around longer because of Tom Coughlin, because they won in 17 and won at a high level. But, I mean, was Tom Coughlin making all the calls and draft picks? I mean, look, Tom Coughlin's ultimately responsible, and he should have been able to say that year, hey, look, what about Patrick Mahomes or what about Deshaun Watson? I mean, those would have been two great statements to make and obviously something that he should have explored further. But at the same token, I think that Tom, once he took the job, his main focal point at the beginning of this transition, when he was as an EVP, it was more of okay, I know what I do best, and that's coaching. I'm going to help Doug assemble a coaching staff, and then we'll worry about the personnel stuff later on. And that obviously hurt. Tom should have addressed the personnel side of things right then and there, and certainly should have addressed it from the standpoint of, look, we don't have a quarterback. We don't have a franchise guy, and we're going to get one. So let's look at the ones that we can possibly take in this spring's draft.
All right, now moving ahead here, 5 more games to go, a month to play for the Jaguars here in 2020. Trent Baalke is the interim general manager. He'll get them through this season in terms of transactions and day-to-day football operations type of things. Transactions, all that, as we said. Doug Marone and the coaching staff are safe through 2020. Shad Khan addressed that after the game Sunday as well. So for Doug Marone and the coaching staff, we're going to have Doug on at 5 o'clock on the Doug Marone Show. This is what they have, 5 games, and then who really knows at that point, but you get an idea that there could be some more changes down the line at some point. So it's got to be tough for Doug and those guys. 5 games to go. They already have lost 10 in a row, Logs, and now you got to go out and get these guys going for one more month of football, knowing that change is likely on the way of some kind.
Well, I mean, that, like I said before, when you sign up to be a coach or a personnel guy in the National Football League, change is inevitable. And so I know Doug and the coaching staff, they realize it, but it doesn't mean it's good. I mean, or great. I mean, it's tough. I mean, it's tough on families. It's tough on organizations. And, you know, the one thing I definitely feel for anybody that works in the National Football League when a team is not winning is sometimes the family can hear a lot of that noise. You know, whether it be coaches' kids or personnel guys' kids, or look, even employees of the organization kids, you know, sometimes are like, oh, the Jaguars suck, you know, and they're giving a kid a hard time because, okay, somebody's dad or mom works for the Jaguars. And I mean, that's kind of the way it is sometimes. But I think coaches know that when they sign up to be coaches, that there can be change and they have to be willing to move. But it's still it's not a great situation. And yeah, JP, there probably will be some more change, and we don't know exactly what that entails until a new general manager is hired and he looks at the organization and evaluates everything. And so, but it definitely will look different, I think, when we roll around to 2021. And it's been a tough year. I mean, tough year for everybody, you know, from COVID to coaches and working remotely, and you're trying to put together and build a franchise and build an organization and build the concept of team. And a really challenging one for Doug Marone and his coaching staff because of all those things that are different about 2020. You know, the COVID things that I mentioned and remote learning, not having the ability. And so when you do all this and everything is so different, when you have the youngest roster in the National Football League and you trade away a lot of valuable veterans, that makes it even harder. And so it's hard to succeed when you're in that position, in my opinion.
Yeah, no doubt. And, you know, just you got to give the coaching staff and those guys and the players credit. Yeah, I know they haven't won. That's the result, the end game. But, you know, it has been a little better the last few weeks, just not getting that result at the end of the day, which is we're not into moral victories here. But we've seen other times where a team can kind of give it up towards the end of the year, at least so far. That has not happened for this Jaguars team. Hey, we've got, you know, it can happen, and it has happened around the league before. Let's come back in a moment, Logs. Let's get into the game this Sunday. The Jags and the Vikings. Mike Glennon will get another start. We'll see what the Jaguars' defensive matchup is this week. It's not ideal for the Jags, but we'll break it all down. And then at 4:30, Tony Boselli joins us as well. 5 o'clock for the Doug Marone Show. We are off and running on a Thursday. It's Jaguars Happy Hour on the Jaguars Digital Network.
Hi, I'm Tito Beverage, founder and master distiller at Tito's Handmade Vodka. In 1997, we became the first micro distillery in the state of Texas, and we're still making the same smooth stuff after all these years. We're still cooking in a pot still, working with our dogs by our sides, having fun and tasting batches, and I'm still wearing the same hat, even after all these years. Head over to Tito'sVodka.com to learn more about what else we're doing the same. Cheers. 80 proof Tito's Handmade Vodka, distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. Tito'sVodka.com.
Headquartered right here in Jacksonville, the CSI Companies is one of the fastest growing staffing firms in the nation. As a proud partner of your Jacksonville Jaguars, CSI knows how important it is to find the right people for your team. See why some of Jacksonville's top companies choose CSI for their staffing needs. Visit thecsicompanies.com or call 800-582-0828 today. That's 800-582-0828 for the CSI companies.
Dreamfinders Homes has a simple commitment to their home buyers. Deliver unsurpassed quality, uncompromising value, and an extraordinary level of customization you simply won't find with other home builders. With over 40 communities to choose from, you'll find a location you love and the home of your dreams. Dreamfinders has townhomes, single-family homes, and custom estate homes starting from the high 100s and a wide selection of move-in ready homes. Quality, value, customization. That's the Dreamfinders difference. Call 904-738-0165 or online at dreamfindershomes.com. Dreamfinders Homes, the official home builder of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Prices subject to change without notice. Equal housing opportunity.
At VyStar, we believe in better. Better convenience, so members can bank any way they want, whether it's at a branch, on a mobile device, or at one of more than 20,000 fee-free ATMs across North America. We believe that people have better things to do with their time. If you believe that convenience is better, join VyStar. We never forget that it's your money. All loans subject to approval, insured by NCUA.
Committed to the team. Committed to the mission. At Navy Mutual, we're committed to providing high-quality life insurance to members of the military and their families. So our policies have no fine print and no military service restrictions. We don't work on commission. We're nonprofit, so we pass the savings along to our members. Because at Navy Mutual, our highest commitment is to you. Visit NavyMutual.org. Navy Mutual, insuring those who serve.
The wait for the holidays is over, America. It's time to make some joy. And we're here to help with the Ford Built for the Holidays sales event. We're offering the best deals of the season across the Ford lineup, so you can road trip with the whole family comfortably in a Ford Expedition. Bring home a tree that's bigger than you ever have with a built Ford Tough F-150. And find new ways to make the holidays bright this year when you visit your local Ford dealer. The joy is up to you, America, so let's get to it. Ford, built for the holidays.
Jaguars Happy Hour is presented in part by TIAA Bank, created to serve, built to perform. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. And Baptist Health, changing healthcare for good.
The time that he's had in the National Football League has helped him. And I can remember him in college at NC State. I think didn't have a great offensive line, but he's always had a great feel for sitting in the pocket, wait till the last second to deliver the ball. And he will take some hits because of that and possibly throw some errant balls because of that. But he's got a great feel for the pocket, good understanding of the game, concepts, defenses, protections. I think the receivers and everybody likes his urgency in the huddle, communication. All that stuff plays a major role pre-snap. I think Mike is probably our best option right now. Post-snap, I think all three of them do some great things. And obviously Mike showed some flash of being really productive for us and the best option this week.
Jay Gruden, offensive coordinator, discussing the decision to start Mike Glennon this week by head coach Doug Marone against the Vikings. And welcome back. Jaguars Happy Hour. JP Shadrick, Jeff Lageman coming up in just a few minutes, 12 minutes or so. Tony Boselli scheduled at 4:30 today. So Mike Glennon gets the start again. And you heard him there, Logs. A lot of the pre-snap stuff just felt a little, I guess, cleaner, smoother with Glennon in there. He's been in the league for a long time. That's a big reason why. And what'd you think of Glennon last week? And what can we expect now in round number 2 for the vet?
Well, I think you would expect things to be cleaner going from a Jake Luton to a Mike Glennon. After all, Mike Glennon's got a lot more experience and not necessarily a ton of more game experience because now he's 6 and I think 17 as a starter. So it's not like he's got 10 years of starting under his belt, but certainly a lot more than Jake Luton. But he's been around. He's been in this system before. And when I say this system, last year he was with the Raiders, and so he was with Jay's brother John, and the systems are very similar. And so I think that helps. But the reality is that Mike Glennon is what he is, JP, and that's a journeyman quarterback. And it's nice to have him kind of be a steadying force for an offense. But at the same token, there's no excitement associated with Mike Glennon being the Jaguars quarterback because you realize that he is a journeyman quarterback. And the excitement will come hopefully one day when this team finds a franchise quarterback that can lead them on to big things in the National Football League. And so I hope that Mike Glennon plays well, and I hope he continues to get a little bit better, because the inactivity that he's had for a significant amount of time doesn't help any quarterback. But I like the way that he protected the football. But he missed some throws in the game that could have been the difference in winning and losing. And hopefully he can make those throws this week against a Minnesota Vikings team that is going to be able to put up a lot of points on the board. Make no mistake about it, the Vikings are going to score some points.
Right. We'll get to that matchup against the Jaguars defense here in a little bit. Let's hear from Mike Glennon, his review of last week's game, how he found out he was going to start for a second straight week.
As far as the conversation, there really wasn't much. Doug just told me, we're going with you again this week. It was left at that. As far as week to week, I mean, I understand it. It's a performance-based industry, and, you know, all of us have shown flashes, and it's about consistency, and, I get it.
Yeah, Doug Marone earlier this week, Logs, said that was asked, hey, is this Glennon's gig for the rest of the year? He's like, whoa, we know. Every position is day-to-day, week-to-week in the NFL, including the quarterback position down the stretch here. He could have a couple of weapons back on the field outside. Conley and Chark, the receivers, have both been limited this week on the practice field. They both missed last week's game. Coughlin Johnson stepped up and had a big game for him on the nice long touchdown run and took advantage of his opportunity to step in there last week. And, of course, Logs, when you have a guy like James Robinson playing as well as he is and as reliable as he is, that helps everybody on offense when you can get that running game going and then obviously bring some guys, moving guys around on the defense. And when you have James Robinson doing his thing, that helps everybody else out too.
Well, there's no doubt, and James Robinson's coming off his career best game as far as total yardage output in a ball game, and he's a great player. I mean, make no mistake about it. The only thing that James Robinson doesn't have is the breakaway speed to where he can just run away from a pack. But he's got everything else. He's got the decision making, the vision, the efficiency, and the power, the commitment, the smarts. He's got everything that you want. And on the Coughlin Johnson touchdown, I don't know if you happened to watch Jags Wired last night, JP, but I illustrated this play on the board and then going to be doing it again. We're going to show it again tonight on Jaguars All Access. And on the Coughlin Johnson touchdown catch, I called it the J-Rob effect, because the Cleveland Browns were up in the box with the safety, which makes 8. And so you're leaving the corners a little bit out on the island with a deep middle safety. And whether you play a 3-deep zone in that situation or you decide to match up in man, it's still leaving the corners essentially out on an island. And so they ran a clearing route by Keelan Cole on the left, and then Coughlin Johnson was running a crossing route all the way across the field, and the Browns were in man. But there was no safety to help that corner cover Coughlin Johnson, because that safety was worrying about James Robinson. And Jay Gruden talked about this play, I think, yesterday, which kind of made me happy because that's the play that I picked to draw. I'm like, cool, the coordinator picked one that I really like. and it's just cool to see how defenses react to James Robinson. They respect him. They respect the running game. They brought the 8th guy in the box with the play action fake. All of those 8 guys were moving forward, so that none of them were able to recover to be a factor on the Coughlin Johnson catch, and it was a touchdown. So one of the reasons why that James Robinson is a really good football player, and I just hate to think of where this organization, this franchise would be without him this year, because he's been steady, he's been good, and on a football team that has really had little else that's been steady and good. As far as the wide receivers go, it's nice to have DJ Chark back. It's nice to have Chris Conley back. But at the same token, I also think that Keelan Cole's a good football player, especially a good football player when he's playing the X position, which is probably a little bit more natural position. And then Chris Conley's a good football player too, but I also like Coughlin Johnson. So I don't want to say there's no drop-off when these guys played last week, because DJ Chark's a Pro Bowl caliber type player. So there is some drop-off, but not as much, I think, as with some teams at that position. That's the one position the Jaguars have done a pretty good job personnel-wise with, is the wide receiver group.
One more note here on Robinson, since we're kind of on the topic here. I mean, you mentioned all that, bringing extra guys in the box now. He's facing that a lot of times, and he's still producing with all that stuff. And he's still, and we had the stat last week, he's only had 11 negative runs all year. Well, that's still true. He didn't have any last week. He just keeps building onto it, somehow finds a way to always get forward, even though now, especially this time of year, teams know what he has to offer. That says something about the way he's played this season, which is remarkable to see.
Well, no doubt, because if you're an opponent and you're the defensive coordinator, what are you worrying about? Are you worrying about Gardner Minshew or Mike Glennon or Jake Luton? Hell no. You know, you're worrying about James Robinson, and then just keeping your one safety back to prevent a big play. You know, so I give James Robinson a lot of credit. And one of the plays that I also illustrated last night for Jaguar JP, you remember when the Jaguars were on the potential game-tying drive, and they came out and they were throwing the ball around a little bit, and they had some success, and I made the comment during the broadcast to say, hey, don't forget about James Robinson. Well, the very next play, they hand the ball off to James Robinson. It was kind of like a draw look because Glennon was in the shotgun, and he reaches over to his right and hands the ball to James Robinson. And it was such a thing of beauty of what James Robinson did on that play, because the Browns had what essentially was a 6-man box. And the Jaguars had their 5 offensive linemen. So you got to find somebody to block that 6th guy in the box. Well, Tyler Eifert was split out, and he was a little bit detached from the offensive line group. So he has to come all the way into the formation and block a linebacker. And it's a very hard block, and it requires a little bit of time. So when James is hitting this on the draw, he actually kind of veers back to the side where Tyler Eifert is at to allow the linebacker to freeze just enough to allow Eifert to get in position. And then also that allows Brandon Linder, the center, to get a little bit better position on the tackle. And then he breaks it off to the left side where you have the guard in the center, or the guard and the left tackle kind of crossing, blocking an end and linebacker combination. It was a thing of beauty. I mean, an absolute thing of beauty where James set this up. And, you know, like I've watched Jaguars running backs for a long time, ever since this team came in existence, from Fred Taylor to Maurice Jones-Drew. And Fred was an unbelievable talent, a Hall of Fame caliber back, and Maurice Jones-Drew, a special back. And I don't want to say that they never did anything like that, but they didn't quite have that knack for setting up things because they just had great speed. They just go, you know, and they beat people with speed and power. Right? Yeah, and James can't do that. He's not a guy that's just going to outrun anybody, but he's going to out-efficient people, and he's going to outsmart people. And that play, JP, was an absolute thing of beauty. And if you haven't seen it, hopefully the Jaguars put it up on Twitter, because it's, and I'm not trying to pump myself up here. This is about James Robinson and the play and the job that he did on this particular play.
Everybody watch the Jeff Lageman segment on Twitter coming up a little bit late. I'm kidding, of course.
I hope
great
it's
play,
on
of
Twitter.
course. If not, it will be soon.
That's not
We're back in a moment,
though, JP.
It's mine either.
It's not my department. So I think it's Joe Fortunato's department. Maybe he knows.
It might be. It might be. We'll find out. Let's take a time out. It might be Tony Boselli's department. We'll see what he has to say.
Definitely not.
He'll join us in a moment. No, probably not. We're halfway home on Jaguars Happy Hour on the Jaguars Digital Network.
Hi, I'm Tito Beverage, founder and master distiller at Tito's Handmade Vodka. In 1997, we became the first micro distillery in the state of Texas, and we're still making the same smooth stuff after all these years. We're still cooking in a pot still, working with our dogs by our sides, having fun and tasting batches, and I'm still wearing the same hat even after all these years. Head over to Tito'sVodka.com to learn more about what else we're doing the same. Cheers. 80 proof Tito's Handmade Vodka, distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. Tito'sVodka.com.
If something's been hurting, aching, or bothering you, don't ignore it any longer. It's time to take care of your health again. It's time to make an appointment with a Baptist Health primary care doctor or specialist. Call 904-202-4U to schedule a virtual visit or see a doctor in person at a Baptist Health location. The time for better health is here. Call 904-202 the number 4 YOU or visit getbetterjacks.com.
Hey Jacksonville, this is Joe Adib from Bono's. I just want to let you know that we have now reopened all of our dining rooms. We appreciate all the love that you have showed us during this crisis. For over 71 years, we have been here for you through good times and bad. Our award-winning barbecue and our unbelievable staff look forward to seeing you soon. Be safe.
At Tropical Smoothie Cafe, one taste and you're feeling good now, smiling wider now, seeing brighter now, bucket dunking now, namasteing now, popping a wheelie now, living lighter now. You're on Tropic Time now. And on Mondays, try our Jaguars Duval Delight Smoothies for $2.99. And you're roaring louder now, end zone dancing now, sipping spirit now. You're on Tropic Time now at Tropical Smoothie Cafe.
The wait for the holidays is over, America. It's time to make some joy. And we're here to help with the Ford Built for the Holidays sales event. We're offering the best deals of the season across the Ford lineup, so you can road trip with the whole family comfortably in a Ford Expedition. Bring home a tree that's bigger than you ever have with a built Ford Tough F-150. And find new ways to make the holidays bright this year when you visit your local Ford dealer. The joy is up to you, America, so let's get to it. Ford, built for the holidays.
Jaguars fans, here's a great way to pay with pride wherever you go. Exclusively from TIAA Bank, the Jacksonville Jaguars Visa debit card comes with a fierce look and fantastic features, along with the convenience to make purchases online or at millions of locations worldwide. And it's yours, free, when you open a Yield Pledge checking account. Order yours today. Visit TIAABank.com/JagsCard. TIAA Bank is a division of TIAA, FSB, member FDIC, and the official bank of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Jaguars Happy Hour is presented in part by Dreamfinders Homes. Homes that fit your lifestyle. Next Grill, everyone's invited. And Adecco. Visit AdeccoUSA.com.
You know, everything in this league is day to day, week to week. You know, and I think, especially when we're having a season, that we're having right now, and we're trying to get ourselves focused on Minnesota, for a win. So, I think it'd be naive of me to say, that every position, has to play well, from week to week. And if we feel like someone else behind them can produce better or give us a better chance to win, and I think we'll go ahead and make that move. So I don't want to put it just on the one position. It's really all positions that we're looking at, being able to do that.
Head coach Doug Marone earlier this week, that was his answer to the question if Glennon had the job the rest of the year at quarterback, and he put it on all positions, and that's where the Jaguars are right now, 10 consecutive losses. Welcome back, Jaguars Happy Hour. JP Shadrick, Jeff Lageman. Tony Boselli joins us now on the program. Tony, good afternoon, first of all. Good to see you.
How we doing?
We're hanging in there. Tony, how you doing?
I'm doing outstanding, JP. A little chilly for me, but I'm doing good.
It's like 70 degrees outside this afternoon.
Well, there's no doubt about it. I'm soft. There's 100% true.
For a long time.
It's like a warm day out there today.
It's really
you can see I got my.
is.
Well, you can see I got my what's it called on my hoodie.
I see that. Yes, inside. You can turn on the heat indoors too. Let's get to the big news of the week, though. We obviously have discussed this on Monday with you, Tony, but a few days have gone by now since the Dave Caldwell firing. Anything new, at least in your mindset about that? And now you just know what's going to happen. There's going to be change, and we're going to have an interesting first week of January, it feels like.
Well, I mean, we all sensed it was coming. I guess we didn't know the timing, but we knew it was coming, and that it was probably inevitable based on the record and kind of how the season was going. And that's where we ended up, and that's where we are now.
Yeah,
and that's where it's going to be.
I don't know if there's ever the right time to do anything, but I do know this: when you have 3 other organizations in the National Football League that already had relieved their general managers of duties, and if you want to be, I don't want to say in the race, but if you want to be in the conversation with certain people, because even though around the league it's expected that you wait until the season to finish before you start talking to people, the reality is that those conversations happen all the time before seasons end. And so if you want to be able to, I don't want to say be first in line, but be in the mix, you got to go ahead and start having those conversations.
100%, because, I mean, you look at the number of jobs that are already open. You have Houston open, you have Atlanta open, and then Detroit fired their GM the week before. So and you have head coaches. I think there's going to be as many as 7 or 8 jobs open this year. So we're still waiting to see what's going to happen with Doug Marone. But if you want to have your GM in place to allow and to work with that individual to pick your head coach, I imagine you want it done before pretty quickly once the season ends, because it's going to be a mad rush, I think, for head coaches.
Now, part of that, too, is that you can't talk to GM candidates who still have a season going on, right? I mean, you have to wait until
JP, come on.
All that
That's
stuff.
what I'm
That's
talking
the rule.
about there, JP. That's a
but
rule. But
you
does
can talk to their
anybody follow
agent.
the rules? No, JP. Those conversations happen. Look, what would be wrong if somebody that was aligned with ownership decided to call an agent and say, "Hey, look, we really like your guy, and just want to let you know that we understand that we can't have a conversation with your guy. He's got a job right now, but we just want to let you know that, hey, we want to talk to him at the end of the year. And here's kind of the parameters, what we were thinking about the job description. Our pay is probably going to be somewhere around this. But, hey, look, we don't want to talk to your client. We just want to give you an idea of what the parameters are." I mean, look, the reality is that happens. And if the league continues to, I don't want to say turn a blind eye to it and not admit it, because it's not like they're addressing it, but the reality is that those things happen.
So there you have it. Let's get back to this game now. We got plenty of time, obviously, to talk about the GM role and everything moving ahead, and we'll have, as we said, an interesting first week of January. This week, it's an interesting week for the Jaguars defense against a Minnesota Vikings team that all of a sudden is getting warm, especially on the offensive side. Kirk Cousins with a 100 rating or better the last 5 weeks. They're 4-1 in that span. Thielen is off the COVID list this week. Jefferson is in the running for Rookie of the Year at receiver. They've got the running back Dalvin Cook, second in the league in attempts and yardage. And, Tony, they've got it going really well, and the matchup against this Jaguars defense, I must say, is not ideal. Let's put it that way.
Well, is there an ideal matchup right now for the Jags defense based on all the injuries they've had?
Probably
and all that's
not.
going on?
Probably
I mean,
not.
maybe the Jets would be a good one. I mean, a team that hasn't won a football game this year. So, no, it's tough. And they got good players. And Kirk Cousins is coming off the NFC Player of the Week last week after a really good game, over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Played outstanding football, brought their team back late against the Carolina Panthers. So, we know about Dalvin Cook. He's a little beat up. I think the one good thing is it's not a real physical offensive line. And so maybe you can get after that a little bit, but they got some really good skill players.
Really good skill players, and including the tight end group, even though Irv Smith is dinged up and didn't practice yesterday and today. Rudolph's a good player and 2 good receivers. And pretty interesting. I know Tony's a big subscriber to PFF, but he's like the highest rated receiver, according to PFF, that there is in the National Football League, which, look, I know that a lot of times you can take some of that stuff and throw it out the window, particularly when it comes to offensive linemen, but for the skill players, Some of that stuff I think is definitely applicable and can be used, but to have the highest rating of a wide receiver by PFF, that's a pretty strong accomplishment. And if you look at him as far as yardage, I think he's 8th, but in receptions he's 24th. And so that ought to tell you that every time he touches the ball, he's gaining a lot of yards.
Good player.
I guess good player. And how about the Jaguars secondary this week? Curious to see who's back. Sidney Jones sniffing around there. He could be back. Could Josh Jones be back on the back end? They need all the help they can get, certainly this week, Logs.
Yeah, they need Sidney Jones, I would think, more than anybody. And I know that Josh Jones could be back, but he's more, I think, of a box type of safety. If he were more of a free type of safety, then I would say, yeah, that's a great to get him back. But Sidney Jones, no doubt. I mean, he's your best corner. He was your best corner even when you had C.J. Henderson that was out there on the field. He's been consistent. I think he ended up starting about 5 games. This will be number 6 if he's able to play. And it looks like he's practicing now, so that's a positive sign. But the issue is that they have 2 really good receivers. So can Trey Herndon, if he's going to be the starter on the opposite side, can he handle that? And then what would you do at the nickel spot? Does Scott still play the nickel? And he struggled a little bit against Landry, who's not exactly a speedy guy in the Cleveland Browns. Or would Barku be a potential nickel guy? I don't see that happening. But the reality is this Jaguars secondary has a lot of challenges.
Jeff, I don't think Barku is a short area guy that you need to be a nickel.
No,
I mean, he's an outside guy.
So Dalvin
the
Cook,
crazy thing
obviously
is
in the
that
backfield.
who else do you play? You know, do you have any other guys that you can play? I mean, you got Greg Maben, and he's been with the Jaguars, I think, for 2 days of practice prior to the game last week. And can he get up to speed on what the Jaguars are doing to be a player? And the reality is, anytime you claim a player off of waivers, I mean, what type of quality player are you talking about? I mean, he's probably a journeyman type of player because that's how you got him. So the other question I think that is in my mind is that, you know, you lose Devon Hamilton because, I mean, first and foremost, you got to stop Dalvin Cook. And if you don't have Devon Hamilton, what do you do? I mean, who's going to play the nose? And who's going to play the 3? And can Costin play the nose? And if he plays the nose, who's going to play the 3 technique? And it's not like there's a plethora of defensive linemen on this roster or on the practice squad.
Right. The depth is certainly an issue there on the defensive line now, and that's where it starts on the defensive side, certainly against Cook. You know, Dalvin's one of the most explosive backs in the league. We know about Henry, but the way this guy runs, Tony, is just he can break it at any moment. Superstar speed for Cook.
Well, he's so elusive, JP, to your point. I mean, he's a guy who is shifty. He's great in the open field. He's a good receiver, great in the screen game. And he's not a powerful guy, but he has sneaky power. He'll run through arm tackles. I mean, I thought, and Jeff, I mean, you remember, I thought he was one of the best backs coming out of the draft. I mean, it was the Leonard Fournette and McCaffrey draft. I thought he was just dynamic watching him at Florida State. So he's proven.
Yeah, you thought he was the best of the bunch.
I did. I mean, I think he's just a stud. Now, obviously, McCaffrey's probably ended up being the best of the bunch, no doubt about that. But he is super impressive.
Had that early knee injury in his career, but has certainly bounced back from that. Let's come back in a moment. One final segment. Jared Wilson nominated for an award. We'll get to that coming up, and we'll see if we can get James Robinson a Pro Bowl vote or Pro Bowl vote or 2. It's Jaguars Happy Hour on the Jaguars Digital Network.
Jaguars fans, did you know that with Drizzly, you can get Tito's handmade vodka delivered to your door in under 60 minutes? Well, you can. And now they're giving all fans $10 off their first order. Use the code JAGS10 at checkout. Just download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com and make sure you're all set to mix it up with Tito's handmade vodka for the perfect game day. That's DRIZLY.com. And remember to use the special code JAGS10 to save $10 on your first order. 80 proof Tito's handmade vodka. Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. Crafted to be savored responsibly.
Dreamfinders Homes has a simple commitment to their home buyers. Deliver unsurpassed quality, uncompromising value, and an extraordinary level of customization you simply won't find with other home builders. With over 40 communities to choose from, you'll find a location you love and the home of your dreams. Dreamfinders has townhomes, single-family homes, and custom estate homes starting from the high 100s and a wide selection of move-in ready homes. Quality, value, customization. That's the Dreamfinders difference. Call 904-738-0165 or online at dreamfindershomes.com. Dreamfinders Homes, the official home builder of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Prices subject to change without notice. Equal housing opportunity.
The best thing about working at Fair & Farah is all of the employees. We all work together. It's extremely enjoyable to come to work every day.
There's a common cause or goal. No matter what your job is, we're all there for the client.
We are dedicated to our clients 100%. We do everything it takes to maximize the value of their claims.
Fair & Farah is really the Farah family. When they choose us, they choose a family to fight for them and to protect them and to make sure that they're in a good place and that they have somebody on their side.
Farah & Farah. Here for you, here for good, Jacksonville.
Like working outdoors and want better pay and benefits? Superior Fence and Rail is seeking full-time fence installers with pay ranging from $16 to $25 an hour and more with commercial experience. Superior Fence and Rail will train you to work with their professional team and provide you with all the tools you need to be a top-notch installer. Get off the fence. Call Superior Fence and Rail today and start your career.
SuperiorFenceandRail.com.
Hey Jags fans, did you know you can ride your bike to every Jaguars home game at TIAA Bank Field and valet park it for free? That's right. Stop by our bicycle check-in tent, sponsored by Alert Today Florida, near Gate 1 at TIAA Bank Field. An on-duty ZenCog bike professional will park your bike and ensure it's secured during the game. When the game's over, return your claim ticket and pick up your bike. For cycling safety tips, visit alerttodayflorida.com. Remember, Alert Today, alive tomorrow, because safety doesn't happen by accident.
At ViStar, we believe in better. And that means treating people better with friendly, personal service that's kept our members happy since 1952. A smile and personal greeting when you enter the branch, an online or phone chat for those quick questions, and a call center that's open every day. If you believe that great service is better, join ViStar. We never forget that it's your money. All loans subject to approval, insured by NCUA.
Sunday was tough. There's no doubt. Sitting and watching it on TV, there was obviously some frustration, but at the same time, I really like to see how the guys went out there and competed in this adverse situation. And obviously we fell short, and that's not what our goal is. But I think there's a lot of credit to our players through this transition this past week.
Todd Wash, defensive coordinator today. He missed last week's game and had to watch it from a hotel room where he was quarantined for 10 straight days. Welcome back, Jaguars Happy Hour. JP Shadrick, Tony Boselli, Jeff Lageman, the Jags and the Vikings coming up, and the coaching staff kind of getting back together. Todd Wash back in the practice field this week. Jason Rebrovich is back. Stukes is still away from the team. But, that was a lot of moving parts last week for the Jaguars on defense on the practice field and then on the game field as well. Joe Dana had to call the plays on defense a week ago, and I think Todd's glad to be out of that hotel room, Logs. I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, do you think? Look, I don't think they, locked him up or anything and said you can't go anywhere. But, and look, he didn't want to talk a whole lot about the COVID situation, but tough situation to be in, and
we're looking
credit to him and also the staff because they were able to be involved actively all week long in the game plan. And Doug Marone talked about it later in the week. He said, look, we didn't have our guys, which was essentially for about 2 hours a day, which was a practice. He said, but everywhere else they were involved. And so glad. I mean, what a tough situation to be in, and that you have an extremely young defense, and then all of a sudden you're hit with 4 significant injuries to where 4 guys have to go on IR, and you start to play guys that haven't played. And they're rookies, and now you've got to get them ready to play, but yet your coaches can't be there to instruct them and to encourage them. And as a player, that's got to be a little bit of a lonely feeling, but that's just the way it is in this COVID world we live in, that's for sure.
No doubt. Avery Jones was out there running defensive line drills last week for a little while, Tony.
Listen, it was tough sledding, and give the guys credit because they worked hard and they figured out a way to get around it. It was less than ideal. Listen, none of us are living in an ideal world right now, and it's tough, and you hated for the coaching staff to have to go through that. But I give the players a lot of credit because they came out and fought. They played hard. It's one thing that this team's has done consistently.
I feel like that's going to be the case down the stretch, too, with the 5 to go. On defense, the Jaguars have veteran safety Jared Wilson on the team. He missed some time early in the year on IR, but he's been back out there. And the Jaguars have nominated Wilson for the Athletes in Action Bart Starr Award. This is the award that Calais Campbell won a couple years ago, and it's for the NFL player who best exemplifies outstanding character and leadership in the home, on the field, and in the community. So congratulations to Jared Wilson for the nomination, and well-deserving, Logs.
Yeah, he's and I don't know if you guys have had a chance to talk with him at any extended period of time, but when we were up in Minnesota with the practices with the Minnesota Vikings, what was that, a year ago, I guess it was, I had the chance to talk with him and visit with him a couple different times, and he's one of the most fun guys and interesting guys to talk to, extremely intelligent, loves ball. Definitely have great conversations with him about football, but also a lot of other things. And Todd Wash just glows about him. Todd Wash talked today extensively about Jared Wilson, about how much of a leader he is and how he commands the room and how guys respect him. And that's a lot. I mean, that's a tremendous saying about him. And the one thing that we notice, I think, as just football fans and obviously analysts for the Jaguars, is that how much better the Jaguars secondary plays when Jared Wilson is back there versus when he's not back there as a group. And I think that's the most significant compliment you can give anybody, in that, boy, the team just plays better when they've got him. And everybody else plays better around him because of him. And so I don't know if you can say enough positive things about a Jared Wilson.
He had to bide his time around here, Tony, and kind of back up those guys from that 2017 team, and he's kind of hung around, and now he's got his opportunity in the secondary here, Tony.
Well, yeah, he started off as a special teams guy, and he worked his tail off, and was a guy that had to fight every year, and I think he showed glimpses early that, like, hey, this is a guy who's going to work his tail off on special teams, and when he got in there, he looked like he could do some nice things. You know who else is like that a little bit this year in a smaller sample size is Daniel Thomas. I mean, if you look at and you talk to the coaches, he kind of set the tone on how he performed on special teams, and I think that earned the trust that when he went out there, he'd be okay. And I think Gerald Wilson did the same thing over a longer period of time, obviously, because he had guys who were established starters in front of him, and so good for him.
So now the next trick is to see if we can get James Robinson a Pro Bowl nod. There won't be a game this year, of course, but there still will be a Pro Bowl team picked. And, he's got a shot. It's a little bit of a long shot, though, considering the record and everything going on. But if he keeps putting up numbers, you never know, right, guys? James Robinson could get there.
I think so. I mean, it's going to be, I think he deserves it. But at the same token, will he get there, JP? That's a tough ask, because playing on a 1-10 small market football team that hasn't been very good lately, and that's hard to accomplish. The reality is, though, that he deserves to be on a Pro Bowl AFC squad. How many tailbacks do they take? I mean, they take like 2 or 3 guys, right? Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah, I just think it's tough. Right. I think it's really tough. I mean, you look at the AFC and you look at running backs. I mean, you have to start looking at the guys who are on, kind of established teams. I mean, you have 2 backs in Cleveland, in both Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. One of them for sure, possibly both of those guys could end up going. You have Derrick Henry. Obviously, he's in there. That leaves one spot. And if you go through it, I mean, it becomes really difficult for a guy, as Jeff said. No one's paying attention. The Jaguars have lost 10 straight, small market, undrafted guy. So I think do I think he deserves a shot? Absolutely. I think, and JP, we talked about it. If this was a normal year where they actually played the Pro Bowl, and there was going to be a bunch of alternates, I think he for sure ends up in Orlando or wherever the heck they were going to have the game this year. So,
right.
I mean, he has been remarkable. I don't care if he makes the Pro Bowl or not. He has had a remarkable year. Jeff has said it multiple times on the broadcast. Where would this team be without him?
Wouldn't be good.
Great question. No,
wouldn't be good.
Josh Jacobs, another guy. Yeah, Josh Jacobs, another guy in the AFC
Josh
to watch
Jacobs
out
is
for.
good, JP, but I mean, look, Josh Jacobs also has a team that's been pretty competitive. I mean, the Jaguars have one win, and I think Jay Gruden said it last week. He said, "Can you imagine what James Robinson's output would be if the Jaguars were able to play with a lead occasionally towards the end of a ball game, and where you can hand the ball off to James Robinson, allow him to kill the clock and get more touches? I mean, that would be tremendous." But nonetheless, I think the people in the National Football League that watch film and watch it, I think they appreciate James Robinson. I mean, every week that the Jaguars get ready to face somebody, from Mike Tomlin on down to every other coach that the Jaguars have faced, one of the first name out of their mouths has been James Robinson. The fan base, I think, and when I say the fan base, the NFL fan base, there may be a lot of them that still don't even know who the hell James Robinson is. I mean, that's just the reality. Like Tony said, he was undrafted. And when you come in and you're undrafted, nobody knows who you are, so that all of a sudden they keep seeing a name. The one thing I think that has helped James Robinson, I think has helped every NFL player, is the fantasy output. Because James has continued to be a pretty good fantasy player, and I'm sure there's some people out there that drafted him really late, and we're very happy to have him. But fantasy certainly helps the exposure for a guy like James Robinson.
Certainly does. Final thoughts about the game coming up Sunday, the Jaguars and the Vikings. The Jags at 1-10. The Vikings need the game certainly to keep pace in the NFC playoff picture. The offense is playing well up there. Historically, obviously a tough place to play, but the fans will not be an issue this week. Tony, what is your feeling on Thursday going into Sunday's game?
Listen, it's tough for all the things we talked about. They got a really good skill set of skill positions, and this is a team that's beat up defensively. They're not great defensively themselves, so maybe you can get something going and score some points. We talked about James Robinson, but going up to Minnesota playing a team that's fighting to stay in the playoff hunt, you've lost 10 in a row. I think it's tough. It's a tough task.
Yeah, definitely a tough task. The Minnesota Vikings are a little bit on a roll. They've won 4 out of their last 5. They can score some points. Their defense is young, though. And so if Mike Glennon can get a little hot, get a little bit better than what he was this past game, and the receivers can have significant games against a very young secondary, then they got a chance. And this football team, I'm not counting them out. I mean, Doug Marone's been, I think, over the last number of weeks, has gotten this team to play extremely hard and to be extremely competitive. And the reality is, I think that's a job that I think has been done with some players that aren't exactly the best in the world. So if they can do it again against the Minnesota Vikings, then kudos to them.
That would be a nice day at the office if the Jags can get something done, certainly this week at U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. Tony, thank you for the time. We will talk to you a little bit later.
Always great to be with you guys.
Tony Boselli is out of here. Pride of the Jaguars left tackle. Final thoughts, logs, all access tonight? What do you got on all access?
We got me, Brent Martineau, and NJP. I talked about the James Robinson effect earlier in the show, and tonight we're actually going to draw it up and show you how the Cleveland Browns reacted to a James Robinson and how it cleared the path and opened it up for Colin Johnson's touchdown catch. So tune in for that. We also have Josh Allen, going to talk to him a little bit and see how he's doing. And, of course, the ever-lovable Brent Martineau, which I know you're a big fan of his, and you'll tune in just to watch him.
That's right. Must-see TV tonight, all access Fox 30 at 7 o'clock, and that'll come up in just a little bit. Before we get to that, though, the Doug Marone Show is coming up in just a few minutes. We'll hear from the Jaguars head coach from his office at TIAA Bank Field as the Jaguars head into this Week 13 matchup against the Minnesota Vikings, trying to snap this 10-game skid. They'll try to do it on the road. Mike Glennon getting the start at quarterback for the second straight week. And we'll see if the defense can get some guys back on on the field this Sunday to match up against this Vikings offense. That's all coming up. The Doug Marone Show right around the corner. Our thanks to Tony Boselli. For Jeff Lageman, I'm JP Shadrick. This is Jaguars Happy Hour on the Jaguars Digital Network.
This is the Doug Marone Show. The Doug Marone Show. Former Jaguar Jeff Lageman and JP Shadrick discuss the latest Jaguars news with the head coach. The Doug Marone Show starts right now.
Welcome into the Doug Marone Show, presented by the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles. JP Shadrick from the home studio, Jeff Lageman from his home studio, and as always, head coach Doug Marone joining us from his office at TIAA Bank Field. Good afternoon to you, Coach. Let's start with the biggest news after last week's game. Dave Caldwell relieved of his duties as a general manager for the Jags. We know the record, 1-10. Changes when the record is like that are inevitable. What was your reaction when you heard the news that Dave was gone?
Well, I don't think, it's never. I heard about it obviously right after, the game, after we were done with the press conferences and after the medical meeting. So that's when I first heard, and I heard it from Dave himself. So, it's always tough. I think, in the coaching aspect of it, we've been through it, for a long time, but it's something that doesn't get easier, as it goes, to see people, leave the job, and it's never one person that's at fault. I mean, collectively it's all of us, players, coaches, management, everyone. I mean, that's not what we want to be, obviously, the record, but when things go like this, these things occur. There's going to be there'll be changes. I mean, that's the way it's been, and they happen quickly. So, we wish the best to Dave and his family, and we'll continue to move on this season and try to win some football games.
And Doug, as part of that, the role is now filled in an interim basis by Trent Baalke. And I know that you and the general manager, the head coach and general manager, obviously have a lot of meetings personnel-wise, especially in these times with COVID and the expanded rosters and such. And so how has that gone with Trent Baalke, and does it change any role that you may or may not have?
I don't believe my role hasn't changed. I mean, my focus has always been on the coaches and the players, so that's not going to change. And, especially now, more so, when it's like this, and what's going on with our record. We got a bunch of young guys that they're playing as hard as they can, and we've got to continue to keep getting them in position where we can start making the plays that are the difference, in these football games. So, Trent's someone that I really didn't know prior to being here. I had one meeting with him when the San Francisco head coaching job was open, and then when he came here, he was in charge of personnel. So. You're going to have conversations with him during the course of the year, which we have. But now, obviously, like you said, Jeff, it's different now. So, we're working together to see, what we can do to help ourselves and make sure that we can, position ourselves so when, if we do have injuries or players, become injured during the game, that we're able to have, players behind them that can step in there and play.
One of the other big decisions, Doug, this week that you had to make is the quarterback position, and you ended up going with Mike Glennon, and not having the players in the building on a Monday and a Tuesday, and I appreciate, and I think most players respect you as far as not wanting to announce that until you had a chance to talk to the players, but you go with Mike Glennon. Talk us through that thought process and why Mike Glennon and what he's going to be able to do for your football team that you maybe couldn't get from someone else.
Yeah, I think that, I think whenever you put a quarterback in the game, like I've always said before, it's such a different year where you didn't have the preseason. And because I think, you get a better feel, or there's no doubt. You watch someone playing a preseason game when it is live, because the quarterback position, obviously, during practice and when you're in training camp is a protected position. And you can argue that it shouldn't be as protected, but it's been like that forever. So you really never get to see, the true ability to handle the pressure and the true ability to protect the football. So I think whenever I put anyone, in my experience, in the past, is whenever I put anyone out there, the first thing I want to know is, hey, is this person going to protect the football? Because it's very easy to just throw it up there, throw it away, maybe mishandle snaps, things like that. And that's too valuable. So no matter how good you can be on and everything else that you do, that's the first thing you look at. And then you look at, basically the control and how they are on the sideline. Now, we understood going into this that Mike was a guy that's been around. I mean, he's a veteran type of quarterback. He did well for us in practice, did well for everything. But I thought he went in there last week and really did a good job of protecting the football. Thought he made some really good throws. I thought he made some good decisions to take some shots, something that we need to do, and showed some accuracy. And I'm sure it is like every game, you want some throws back or you want some things back. But this was his first game, so I'm looking forward to him, building on that and getting better this week against Minnesota.
Head coach Doug Marone with us. Yeah, and Gardner Minshew, as you said earlier in the week, is back healthy. And you were asked this week, is this Glennon's job the rest of the way? And you said, well, we're all day to day and week to week, every position group, not just the quarterback position. And that's the mentality for you. That's really the case. It's, performance based. And this could change. Hopefully it doesn't change. Hopefully Mike plays well. But week to week is really a real thing for you going down the stretch here.
Yeah, I've learned a long time ago, whether it be as a player. The one thing I've learned once, and really even when I got to college, and saw the things that were going on in college, and you don't perform well, and you see people, let go, and then all of a sudden you make a decision somewhere in your life that you're going to choose this profession, whether it's a player, whether you're a coach. And Jeff knows this, and I really believe that sometimes the contract, can keep you for a while nowadays. Before, I know stories that with the Jets way prior to me being there where they've cut a second round pick, they've done things like that. But I've always had the mentality of, every day you really don't know, you're coming in there and doing the best job you can. And whatever happens, happens. Whether you're winning, losing, it doesn't matter. Every day you come in, you've got to work and earn the right to come in for the next day. And I've always looked at that. So when I get questions about, hey, is it this person's job or that person's job? Well, you know what? They're going to go out there and they're going to have to earn it. And it's no different than the coaches, and it's no different for the players. And, the players are obviously under a larger microscope because their performance is out there. But, a lot of times the performance of those players, good and bad, are going to be a reflection on you as a coach. So, that's how I've always looked at it.
Doug, to kind of stay along the quarterback position, I know this doesn't pertain exactly to your team, but in light of what happened with the Denver Broncos this past week, to where they had to play, which was essentially a practice squad wide receiver at quarterback because the quarterback room was essentially ruled out for the game because of COVID protocols. Has that changed anything you may do with your football team the remainder of the way, or has it made you reinforce certain things with your team and using that as an example?
Well, I think number one, Jeff, you're correct. It's something that we did talk about. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to say that we just kind of, didn't talk about it. And we talked about it earlier in the year, prior to the year beginning, what we wanted to do with the quarterback position. We talked about how we were going to manage the practice squad positions for COVID, especially with specialists, because if one of them go, it's not like you can move it like an offensive tackle into guard or a guard to tackle or, a corner to safety. I mean, there's moves you can make within the roster, but if your kicker goes down or your long snapper goes down, you have to have people available. So, these discussions went on for a long period of time, to a point where we felt, we were in a good situation. And then with the situation that came up this week in Denver, we talked about it, but I think a lot of it is the contact tracing. So again, it's another teachable moment, for everyone, just as a reminder. But we've tried to stay on top of that. Like I said, almost every staff meeting starts with some type of COVID update or awareness of something that we need to do. Especially now, where I think things are getting a little bit tougher on the outside. And we can see some things changing around the league. Some of these cases going up, some of these contact tracing, but now we're at a critical time because, like I said, this is the last week of bye week. So, shuffling the schedule, there's only so much flexibility you have.
One more question here. The Broncos, it was kind of interesting how they wanted to petition the league to try to allow a couple coaches to play quarterback in the game. And it kind of made me chuckle a little bit, but it also made me think. I said, boy, wonder if Doug has anybody on his staff that he might think could play, not just necessarily quarterback, but any position. And I started thinking to myself, I said, Doug, I bet you Keenan thinks that he could still play wide receiver.
I don't know. I mean, you'd have to ask Keenan, but I mean, he definitely, can get out there now. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I think, Ron Middleton played tight end for a long period of time, if we want to throw him there. Jay Gruden was a quarterback. He was, I think, MVP of the Arena League. I mean, we'll throw him out there. There'll be a line, though, because I need 3 games to get my pension. So I'd be the first one putting myself in there on the roster. If I could stay on the roster for 3 more games, I get vested. So, I'm going to use my head coach priority in that.
I love that. We'll come back in a moment. Plenty more ahead with head coach Doug Marone. We'll get into the running back room. James Robinson continues to churn out yardage, and this is the Doug Marone Show on the Jaguars Radio Network.
Whether you're driving to a Jaguars game or on the way to work, when you see flashing lights, please move over. If you can't move over a lane, slow down 20 miles per hour below the speed limit. You can protect those who help you on the road, from law enforcement and other first responders to utility and tow truck drivers. They all need you to be at the top of your game while you're driving. See lights? Please move over. Brought to you by the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles and the Florida Highway Patrol.
Jaguars fans, let's tackle social injustice together on game days with Selfies for Change. Visit TIAAbank.com/selfies for change to take a virtual selfie with a Jaguars player and unlock a $5 donation to the Jaguars Foundation to help fight social injustice. Share your photo on Instagram or Twitter using hashtag Selfies for Change so more fans can be part of the movement. Join us on game days at TIAAbank.com/selfies for change. TIAA Bank is the official bank of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Dreamfinders Homes has a simple commitment to their home buyers. Deliver unsurpassed quality, uncompromising value, and an extraordinary level of customization you simply won't find with other home builders. With over 40 communities to choose from, you'll find a location you love and the home of your dreams. Dreamfinders has townhomes, single-family homes, and custom estate homes starting from the high 100s and a wide selection of move-in ready homes. Quality, value, customization. That's the Dreamfinders difference. Call 904-738-0165 or online at dreamfindershomes.com. Dreamfinders Homes, the official home builder of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Prices subject to change without notice. Equal housing opportunity.
The best way to feel love is to share it. At Hanania Subaru of Orange Park, we always go the extra mile with bigger selection, more savings, our best service. Only Subaru of Orange Park gives you a nationwide lifetime warranty and 1-year complimentary maintenance on new and used vehicles. Plus, when you get a new Subaru during the Subaru Share the Love event, Subaru will donate $250 to your choice of charities. At Hanania Subaru of Orange Park. Online at SubaruofOrangePark.com. See dealer website for full details.
Welcome back to the HananiaAutos.com studio. The Doug Marone Show continues right now.
Welcome back to the Doug Marone Show, presented by the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles. JP Shadrick, Jeff Lageman, and head coach Doug Marone joins us from his office at TIAA Bank Field. James Robinson continues to churn out yardage for you in the running game. Had some yards in the passing game last week as well as his highest scrimmage yard output of the season. And I think we could have a segment about him in every single show. In fact, I think we do at this point, the way his season has gone so far. And talking to him the other day, Doug, it's, this is the equivalent of a college season for him so far. I'm not really going to, second guess him being able to handle the rest of the load the rest of the way. He's been able to handle everything you've thrown at him so far.
Yeah, I mean, he's really truly an amazing person. What I mean by that is just the consistency in him, and he's a humble guy. He really hasn't changed his approach. And when you look at what he's been doing, I mean, he did it in high school, he did it in college, and he's doing it here. And for whatever reason, we were giving him a little nudge today. We were talking. I'm like, so would you run like 4.8 coming out of high school? I mean, how could you not have been? I mean, then I said, you had 9,000 yards. I mean, who has 9,000 yards in high school and doesn't get any offers? And so he's such a great kid about that. But he's been so consistent. He really has, and I really feel that if we were able to get if our record was different and we were able to get leads, I mean, his numbers, I mean, he can be up there as far as the top rusher, really, in the league if you look at it. Now, he's gotten the third or fourth most carries, and, you look at his yards per carry, and it's outstanding, and you look at what he does in the passing game. So I think that if I'm sure he's not been exposed to a lot of our fans and a lot of people in the community, but I promise you this, that when you meet him, he's a man of very few words, but he has a great heart. He's bright as can be. He's always practices hard. I mean, he's everything that you would want. I really can't say enough about him. I don't know at the end of the year not this year, but at the end of the day, what his career is going to be. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a long career and a lot of great stats. But we still have 5 games left, and he still looks very good, and his totals have been going higher now because again, it's one of the things we looked at early about how many touches should he have, and now it's getting more and more, and it's well deserved.
Doug, there were 2 plays in the Cleveland Browns game that I picked, and I do the little thing where I draw on the board and kind of a grease board, and then after that we go and we look at the play live as far as how it happened on coach's film in the game. And there are 2 plays that I picked out. The one was the touchdown to Coughlin Johnson, and how the Browns had 8 in the box and they brought the safety up, and it was a respect thing, I think, for James Robinson, and it allowed the one-on-one situation with the wide receivers and allowed the big play to Coughlin Johnson. And I called it the J-Rob effect, and that was one play. The other play was on what was potentially the game tying drive, if you guys were able to convert the 2-point conversion. It was that little draw handoff to James Robinson. And I thought how he set up the Tyler Eifert block coming in to get the linebacker, and then also how that allowed Brandon Linder to get a little better positioning on the nose, and how he sold the right side or the back side of that potential hole, but then pressed it front side to where Cam Robinson and I believe it was Ben Barch did this little cross block thing. I mean, it was a thing of beauty, and 2 plays that I just thought that really highlighted how good he has been for your football team.
I'll tell you, there are so many examples, Jeff, during the course of this year of just the discipline. Meaning that, a lot of running backs, in my experience, they come up and, they know how to run the football, and they're going to, predetermine a lot of things. And, the ones that are able to establish themselves in the NFL are ones that have great course discipline and really truly understand blocking scheme. And a couple of weeks ago, I remember we were running an outside zone, and it looked like there was going to be nothing there. And he just kept pressing it. And all of a sudden, there's a little seam, and he pops through for about 6 yards. I'm like, you know what? For me, that's the best run of the year right there. That shows you everything you need to know about him. Of letting a lineman get out in front of him, having the ability to press the hole, having the ability to set up blocks. And a lot of these things, I always go back and I was fortunate. I mean, I was with Curtis Martin in New York, and we won the rushing title. And Curtis is a special person. And, he was the same way. He can set things up, and he knew blocking schemes, and he knew exactly what to do. And I'm not trying to compare James to Curtis, but what I'm trying to say is that, the discipline that he has as a runner, I just always feel that every time that we give him the ball, in any normal down and distance, that he is going to, whatever is there, he's going to get. And the one thing about him is that, the amount of physicality that he plays with, because, he'll lower his shoulder. I mean, he will, and he'll go in there and he gets some dirty yards, meaning like, after contact. And like I said before, I really can't say enough about him. I'm happy for him. I think that, there'll be a lot of people, we joke around, there's a lot of people that want to take credit, but the credit goes to James. I mean, James and his family, just really, and I think over the years, the people of Jacksonville will get a chance to, to see him more and really appreciate the type of person he is.
And I think too, Doug, as a former offensive lineman, talked to Boselli about this, and when as an offensive lineman you block for a particular hole, and so when you have a running back that actually goes to that hole that it's designed to be run in, probably his biggest fan club is the offensive line.
There's no doubt. I mean, all of a sudden the guy pops one out or he cuts one back too soon, and you can't get up to the second level. These things all go on, and as an ex-offensive lineman and someone that's coached the line for a long time, it can create a lot of frustration. Giving up on a play, before it even has a chance to develop. I mean, there's a lot of things that I've seen that happens. Whereas I think James is he pushes and presses and does all those things. And, I know Tony would be happy about this. So, I had a discussion with James today about, hey, the way you're playing this year, I'm just going to tell you, the offensive line is going to, they're going to be looking for something at Christmas now, underneath that tree. And, it's not like you were a first round pick where you got a lot of money. So you got to kind of figure this thing out, because I said, look, if you want me to get involved with this thing, I said, I could always get involved and tell the offensive line, hey, you should buy him a gift for Christmas because he made you guys look well. It was hilarious, the conversation we had today out on the practice field before we started going out and practice. But he's like, Coach, I'll take care of him. I mean, that's the type of kid he is. He's a young man. He's a great young man. But I'm sure those linemen are getting lined up to give him a Christmas list.
And offensive linemen are historically a little bit cheap, so they could probably all go in together just to buy one gift, right? I mean, come on.
They would never do that. I mean, I can tell you stories upon stories of being an offensive line coach. We would be sitting in a room in New York, and they'd be saying, well, Curtis is going to win the rushing title. What do you think? I mean, he should get a private jet, fly. I mean, those guys, offensive linemen, will spend other people's money like it's nobody's business, right? I mean, Jeff, you've been around. Offensive linemen will spend someone else's money, but the minute it goes on them, they're like, whoa, wait a minute now. Wait. We can get a set. Isn't that for sale here? Or can I get something here? I mean, but that's just the way offensive linemen are. So I was trying to help James with that a little bit today and explaining the mentality of those guys.
Let's come back in a moment, guys. We'll get into this Jaguars defense. A couple coaches back in the practice field this week. It's the Doug Marone Show on Jaguars Radio.
Coach Doug Marone here, reminding all our Jaguar fans, don't fumble when it comes to driving. One text takes your eyes off the road for 5 seconds. And at 55 miles per hour, that's like driving the entire length of a football field with your eyes closed. To win while driving, you must focus. Keep your hands on the wheel, eyes on the road, and mind on driving. Put it down. Focus on driving. Brought to you by the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles and the Florida Highway Patrol.
In Florida, bicyclists have the same rights and responsibilities as everyone else on the road. So when you ride, follow the rules. Always wear a helmet and use lights on your bike. And drivers, watch for cyclists. Give them space to ride. And don't forget, when making that right on red, look to your right first to see if a cyclist is approaching in the bike lane. We all have a responsibility to keep ourselves and each other safe. Alert today, alive tomorrow. Because safety doesn't happen by accident. This message brought to you by the Florida Department of Transportation.
You won't find a better deal to keep your ride clean than Scrubble's Flexible Service Car Wash. Start in the tunnel wash and experience state-of-the-art equipment while enjoying a soapy light show. Our quality soaps and solutions keep your vehicle streak-free. Every 3-minute car wash package comes with self-serve vacuuming, lint-free towels, window cleaner, and a free air freshener. Visit us at the St. John's Town Center, Fleming Island, and Atlantic Beach. And coming soon to Kernan and Atlantic. Trust the bow tie. You'll know quality once you arrive. Go Jags!
Floridians know what it means to stand together. That's why Florida Blue is committed to the people of Florida by providing health care with lower costs and higher quality. Enroll within 60 days of life-changing events, such as losing your job, to get benefits like plans as low as $0 a month and up to $500 per year towards your premiums and wellness rewards. Call 1-800-750-0164 or visit floridablue.com/care today. Florida Blue is a trade name of Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Florida, Incorporated. These health benefit plans have limitations and exclusions.
Welcome back to the HananiaAutos.com studio. The Doug Marone Show continues right now.
The Doug Marone Show rolls along. JP Shadrick, Jeff Lageman, and Jaguars head coach Doug Marone. The Jags and the Vikings coming up Sunday, a 1 o'clock Eastern time kick at U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Well, last week, Doug, you had a handful of defensive coaches unavailable. They were coaching virtually, which pretty much everybody is these days anyway in the advanced protocols. But they were not available for the game, including Todd Wash and Jason Rebrovich, the defensive line coach. You had, at one point, Avery Jones was running some defensive line drills. I think Jared Wilson was working with the safeties last week at one point. You're on the defensive side of the ball. How did that all feel last week? And now you got some of those guys back on the field for you.
I mean, for us, it was, I want to say it was fun for me. I can't speak for anyone else. And I thought the players really did a good job. I mean, we've got a lot of, like I said before, we have no issues on this team. So those players went out there and, the coaches were still coaching virtually. So they saw all the drills. They were watching everything. But I really thought the players did a good job. They worked hard. They worked with each other. They did everything they had to do. And then game day, the players would just focus. They would just, give them a call, let them go out there and play, and they did fine. I think on the other side of it, I think for the coaches, it was awful. Not being a part of it, not being here, going through the battles and the preparation to get ready to play a game. I probably think that's the worst thing that can ever happen, to a coach. So, they have Jason Rebrovich back. He came back Wednesday. Todd Wash came back today. We're hoping to get Coach Stooks back on Saturday. I think it's great for them because whether you're a coach or a player, no matter what's going on in the season, you want to make sure that you want to finish what you start.
How hard is that, Doug, for a young player? Because you look at your football team's full of young players, but then to go to where you're literally taking a guy out of your roster, practice squad, whatever, and having to get him ready to play a game, and he really hasn't played a game. And then you don't even have practices like normal practices, normal coaches, etc. I mean, that's got to be incredibly tough for the young players. And how did they handle it?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely difficult. I think that, you're working during the year. You're not in games, so you don't see a lot of these guys in actual game-type atmospheres. You try to simulate that during the course of preseason, but that's difficult. I think we can all agree on that. And then, each week is almost like a different playbook, of what you're getting yourself prepared. So you want to make sure you have a great foundation, and you want to have experience, what you're watching on film and who you're going against and all of that. And the coaches help you with that. But there's a lot of work that gets done, outside of just the coach and the player. The player does a lot of work himself. So, I think the other thing I'm saying the normal, the fan that's out there, someone that's not, just a Sunday fan or, just weekly, may look at things. Unless you've been in it, you really don't understand, I think, to a certain extent of, we'll talk about defensive backs for a minute. In certain formations, when guys get stacked or they get into bunch or they get to close splits and you're a man, there's 3 or 4 different checks you can make. When they change of strength and tight ends move, there's a lot of moving parts to that, whether you're a linebacker adjust team, a safety adjust team, whatever it may be. And it's not that when the younger players or guys that haven't played, it's not that, or people that are just coming in the building, it's not 3, cover 2, cover 1, this is how we play it, but it's more of all the adjustments and how do you play the routes in those adjustments. Those are the things that you need time and experience on. And that's where people get, they get better just with experience. So it's not as just, hey, someone can show up here on Wednesday and he can play on Sunday. That's a difficult thing to do for both the player and the coach.
All right, Doug, you're heading to Minnesota this week to face a Vikings team that's getting warm. They've won 4 out of the last 5. They've got offensive weapons. Thielen's coming back. Dalvin Cook's back there, of course. But your young football team has 5 to go, and at least the track record lately has been you go out and fight as hard as you can, and you get as close as you can, and then you have a shot in the fourth quarter. That's got to be the feel again this week, right?
Yeah, I think this week, every week's going to give you a different bunch of, different challenges. I think, when you look at, Minnesota on offense, a lot of decisions to make. Do you put the extra guy in the box, because you got to stop the running back, because Cook is just having a great year. He's second in the league in rushing. He's dynamic. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, this rookie Jefferson is really outstanding, with his speed. Thielman we know about. And the tight end has been there for so long. So, I mean, you got to kind of keep switching it up. And Cousins has been playing really well, like you said, in these last couple of games. So, there's a lot of decisions to make on each and every play of who you want to defend. Do you want to defend the running back or you don't want to defend the passing game? So, I'm excited about that challenge. Offensively, can we run the football, take advantage of the corners? They have 2 safeties that are veteran guys that you got to be careful of. They're real sharp. They got a middle linebacker that can make every single play if you don't get a hat on them in Kendrick. So you got to be careful there. And I think special teams, they probably have 3 or 4 guys that are really, at least 3 guys that are elite special teams players that, it's going to be tough to try to match up with. So I think, and everything. But I'll tell you what, we got guys going out there. I'm excited to see how they play. I mean, I'm excited to see, this, little chess match within the game of the players and the matchups that we have. So, I'm excited to go up there. I have a ton of respect for Minnesota, a ton of respect for Coach Zim. I mean, I've known him for such a long time, and I'm excited to see this team go up there and play.
Well, Doug, thanks for the time again this week. Good luck to you this weekend, and we'll talk to you next Thursday. How about it?
Sounds good. Thank you, JP. Thank you, Jeff.
Head coach Doug Marone with us. We're back with more in just a moment. This is the Doug Marone Show on the Jaguars Radio Network.
Whether you're driving to a Jaguars game or on the way to work, when you see flashing lights, please move over. If you can't move over a lane, slow down 20 miles per hour below the speed limit. You can protect those who help you on the road, from law enforcement and other first responders to utility and tow truck drivers. They all need you to be at the top of your game while you're driving. See lights? Please move over. Brought to you by the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles and the Florida Highway Patrol.
Hey, it's the Good Greek Spiro, and I am proud to announce that Good Greek Moving and Storage is now the official mover of your Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars are making all of the right moves, and you should too. So when it's time for you to move, do it like the Jags and call the Good Greek. Simply dial ** Greek from your cell or go to goodgreek.com. That's goodgreek.com. Good Greek Moving and Storage, official movers of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Good Greek Moving and Storage, your superhero movers.
Oi.
Bonjour.
Sin chao.
Добрый день.
كيف فينا نساعدكم?
¿Cómo te podemos ayudar?
If you have an accident, the last thing you should have to worry about is a language barrier. That's why at Farah & Farah, we have a team as diverse as our clients. So no matter what language you speak, we'll fight for your voice. Farah & Farah, here for you.
نحن هون للكل.
Ici pour vous. Aquí para todos.
Here for all. Jacksonville.
Headquartered right here in Jacksonville, the CSI Companies is one of the fastest growing staffing firms in the nation. As a proud partner of your Jacksonville Jaguars, CSI knows how important it is to find the right people for your team. See why some of Jacksonville's top companies choose CSI for their staffing needs. Visit thecsicompanies.com or call 800-582-0828 today. That's 800-582-0828 for the CSI Companies.
Welcome back to the HananiaAutos.com studio. The Doug Marone Show continues right now.
Welcome back. Our thanks to head coach Doug Marone. He joins us in the first half hour every week on the Doug Marone Show. JP Shadrick with Jeff Lageman. And, you know, I think we could talk about James Robinson the entire 30 minutes with Doug Marone every week, and he'd be okay with that. I think that was a fascinating insight to what the head coach thinks about his running back, not only as a player, but as somebody in the building to work with, and the rookie finding his way in the league. And he's been the bright spot, really, on offense for the Jaguars this year.
Yeah, and I'm glad he admitted that offensive line are historically cheap. So, so it's good to have him admit that to the offensive linemen around the world. But no, look, tough year for this football team, and I think as a coach, and you got to remember that coaches get into coaching. I think initially they don't get into it because they want to make a ton of money, but because they like to coach and they like to help young people, whether it be little league or high school or whatever, college age kids or even professional. They like to help people get better and to work with people and see them get better. And James Robinson has to be a ton of fun to work with because he has gotten better. It's not like he started out the year and he was just unbelievable. I mean, he's actually gotten better as the season has wore on. He was good out of the gate, don't get me wrong, but he has gotten progressively better. And anytime a coach has an opportunity to coach a guy like that who's humble, who doesn't say a lot, doesn't want to draw attention to himself, because there's players, I think, on every team that like to do that, and I think it makes coaches, I think, a little sour on them. But to have a player like that, you got to love it, and you wish you had more of them.
You know, hearing from James this week, you know, we found it interesting that, you know, he's having to figure out the NFL lifestyle, right? And how do you keep your body right and ready to go each week? Now, he doesn't take a lot of direct shots, but he's still running the ball a lot, and he's out there almost all the time, so you have to be ready to go the following week. Well, he said the other day that, you know, at Illinois State, they didn't even really have a hot tub. There was none of that kind of stuff. They had like a rehab situation, but they didn't have a true hot tub. They had a pool and some things, but you come here, you have to use the facilities that are given to you, and he's trying to figure that out, and it looks like so far he's been able to keep himself ready to go week to week.
Yeah, and he may not take, JP, what we think is a lot of shots, because he is good at little subtle movements and such to where he doesn't take a lot of big hits. But, I mean, he takes hits. I mean, make no mistake about it. For example, you go back to the Pittsburgh game when he kind of delivered a blow to Cam Hayward, but Cam Hayward also was knocked backward to where Cam kind of tweaked his knee a little bit. I mean, look, dude, I guarantee James Robinson felt that. And so running backs take a lot of hits to where they rarely, if ever, take contact during an NFL season. And for an NFL running back to stay as healthy as James has throughout the year is truly an accomplishment. And I think also the Jaguars, the organization, they make every possible asset available to the player for them to help their body from a medical standpoint, whether it's treatment, whether it's massage therapy, whether it's hot tubs, cold tubs, whatever they need. Ownership has always been very supportive of making sure that every possible thing is available to the players. And so this is probably something new for James Robinson coming from a small college program. I'm sure that they didn't have that as he talked about. But the Jacksonville Jaguars have everything available to him, and the player certainly should be at his best as he possibly could be because of all the resources that are at their disposal.
All right, Logs, we'll come back, and you, sir, will figure out how to defend the Minnesota Vikings. You've got a couple minutes to figure it out. It's the Doug Marone Show on Jaguars Radio.
Coach Doug Marone here, reminding all our Jaguar fans, don't fumble when it comes to driving. One text takes your eyes off the road for 5 seconds. And at 55 miles per hour, that's like driving the entire length of a football field with your eyes closed. To win while driving, you must focus. Keep your hands on the wheel, eyes on the road, and mind on driving. Put it down. Focus on driving. Brought to you by the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles and the Florida Highway Patrol.
Oi.
Bonjour.
Xin chào.
Добрый день.
كيف فينا نساعدكم؟
¿Cómo te podemos ayudar?
If you have an accident, the last thing you should have to worry about is a language barrier. That's why at Farah and Farah, we have a team as diverse as our clients. So no matter what language you speak, we'll fight for your voice. Farah and Farah, here for you.
نحن هون للكل.
Ici pour vous.
Aquí para todos.
Here for all. Jacksonville.
This football season, prepare your taste buds for the most iconic sports watching drink of all time, Pepsi. With refreshing deliciousness specially formulated to keep your eye on the ball and mouth-watering fizziness to help you power through game day, Pepsi has everything you need to start strong.
I used to care when Mike cheered so hard he spilled nacho cheese on my carpet, but thanks to Pepsi, even Mike can't ruin my football party.
So this football season, make Pepsi your go-to game day drink because it's the only drink made for football watching. Pepsi, that's what I like.
Jaguars fans, Brian Sexton here. I've discovered something that will take your tailgates to the next level this football season. Bernie Grills. You've never seen anything like these portable all-wood grills. Bernie's are convenient, affordable, and simple to use with no messy cleanup. Bernie's real alder wood flavor makes burgers and brats taste delicious. I grilled some steaks on mine the other night, and they were incredible. So get your Bernie Grill for the next game at BernieGrill.com or at Amazon. Bernie Grill. Light. Grill. Done.
Welcome back to the HananiaAutos.com studio. The Doug Marone Show continues right now.
Welcome back. Jeff Lageman, the Doug Marone Show rolls along. All right, Logs, you've had a couple of minutes to formulate a plan to defend the Minnesota Vikings. Kirk Cousins is 100-plus rating for 5 straight weeks. He's got Jefferson, a great rookie receiver who can run some incredible routes, obviously. Thielen's coming off the COVID list. Oh, and they have the second-best running back in terms of yardage and attempts in the NFL. How do you slow him down?
Well, JP, I need more time. And the reason I need more time is that's a tough offense to stop. And they've got a really good offensive mind in Gary Kubiak. They've got a really good defensive mind in Mike Zimmer, which many people view to be the best defensive mind in all of football. And their offensive line is not great. Their defense is young. So you've got to try to find a way to expose a weakness for what it is. And that's not going to be an easy thing to do because the Jaguars defensively don't have a great defensive line. It got further nicked up with the injury to Devon Hamilton. So it's hard to take advantage of the Minnesota Vikings offensive line. And the Minnesota Vikings defensively, they've done a very good job scheming for many years with Mike Zimmer. They do have a young secondary, but they have one of the best middle linebackers in all of football. And Doug Marone was not blowing smoke about Kendricks now. Kendricks is an absolute stud, arguably one of the best inside linebackers in football today, and it's going to be a tough road to hoe for James Robinson because Kendricks is going to be there at every stop. And then once you end up trying to find a way to maybe loosen up that defense a little bit, then you can try to attack the young secondary. But Harrison Smith and those guys in the back end that are at the safety position do a pretty good job. But it's not going to be easy, JP. And fortunately, you don't have a ton of fans inside that stadium because that place is one of the loudest places to play in the National Football League and has arguably the most annoying sound in all of football when you're playing on the opposite sideline of the Vikings, and that's that damn horn.
The Galler horn is what they call that, yes.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it, it's annoying. And the reason it's annoying is because when they're beating you, that thing is constantly, jeez. And the dude that comes out dressed up like a Viking, and obviously he's not coming out because of COVID, but that's one of the cool experiences about playing in Minnesota is the horn, which is cool when you don't have anything invested in the game, but then also the dude dressed up as a Viking with the motorcycle, the Harley Davidson, riding indoors is pretty cool.
And when the fans are there, they sing that Skull song and do all that, and the whole the clapping thing, and all that happens in Minnesota. Anyway, it only happens if they score touchdowns. So let's hope the Jags can slow them down a little bit on offense this week. Let's come back though in a moment. Logs, we'll get into Mike Glennon and what he needs to do in his second outing for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is the Doug Marone Show on the Jaguars Radio Network.
Whether you're driving to a Jaguars game or on the way to work, when you see flashing lights, please move over. If you can't move over a lane, slow down 20 miles per hour below the speed limit. You can protect those who help you on the road, from law enforcement and other first responders to utility and tow truck drivers. They all need you to be at the top of your game while you're driving. See lights? Please move over. Brought to you by the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles and the Florida Highway Patrol.
Any repeated physical activity puts stress on the body. Checking your phone, getting in the car, sitting at your desk, checking the phone, getting in your car, sitting at your desk, checking your phone for the 50th time today. If you do anything with regularity, you should get massaged with regularity. Massage Envy. Keep your body working.
Regular body work makes the body work with massage, skincare, and stretch. Come in today for more information or visit massageenvy.com for more details.
The wait for the holidays is over, America. It's time to make some joy. And we're here to help with the Ford Built for the Holidays sales event. We're offering the best deals of the season across the Ford lineup, so you can road trip with the whole family comfortably in a Ford Expedition. Bring home a tree that's bigger than you ever have with a built Ford Tough F-150. And find new ways to make the holidays bright this year when you visit your local Ford dealer. The joy is up to you, America, so let's get to it. Ford, Built for the Holidays.
Like working outdoors and want better pay and benefits? Superior Fence and Rail is seeking full-time fence installers with pay ranging from $16 to $25 an hour and more with commercial experience. Superior Fence and Rail will train you to work with their professional team and provide you with all the tools you need to be a top-notch installer. Get off the fence. Call Superior Fence and Rail today and start your career.
SuperiorFenceandRail.com.
Why live with foot or ankle pain? If you have persistent pain, numbness, tingling, burning pain on the bottom of your foot, or swelling that doesn't improve with home treatment, it may be time to see Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute. Our foot and ankle specialists have innovative new options to help you get back in the swing of things without persistent pain that slows you down. Call JOI 2000 or go to joionline.net for an appointment.
This football season, prepare your taste buds for the most iconic sports watching drink of all time, Pepsi. With refreshing deliciousness specially formulated to keep your eye on the ball and mouth-watering fizziness to help you power through game day, Pepsi has everything you need to start strong.
I used to care when Mike cheered so hard he spilled nacho cheese on my carpet, but thanks to Pepsi, even Mike can't ruin my football party.
So this football season, make Pepsi your go-to game day drink because it's the only drink made for football watching. Pepsi, that's what I like.
Welcome back to the HananiaAutos.com studio. The Doug Marone Show continues right now.
Welcome back, JP Shadrick, Jeff Lageman. Our thanks to head coach Doug Marone. He joins us in the first half hour of the Doug Marone Show every week from his office at the bank. Well, Mike Glennon will get another start. Logs, his second in a row. Had a rating in the high 90s last week, and it was his first start, of course, in a few years in the NFL. Well, now it's on to Glennon again this week. Marone said this week that he gives the team the best chance to win. That's with Gardner Minshew fully cleared now, by the way, and Jake Luton still off to the side. But so it's Mike Glennon for this week, at least. What do you expect from the veteran in the second go-round now this season?
Well, you expect him to be a little bit better, a little bit cleaner, a little bit more precise, and hopefully you hope that he can make a few more of those throws that he wasn't able to connect on. And if you can see just a little bit of improvement, then I think you got a chance to win a football game. And the one thing I want to see, though, JP, I want to see the tackles play better. In this past game against the Cleveland Browns, it wasn't like there was a Myles Garrett that was out there on the field. You had a couple backups out there. Olivier Vernon's not a backup, but obviously on the other side, playing a backup. And the tackles didn't play very well. And the tackles haven't played very well when it's came to critical times in ball games of late. And that's disappointing. You have Cam Robinson, who is now 2 years removed from an ACL. You have a high draft pick in Jawan Taylor at right tackle. And I don't think either one of them are playing where they need to be at, especially in pass protection. Not so much in the run game, because I think they do a pretty good job in the run game. I'd like to see them finish better in the run game. I don't think their finish is better at times, but they can move some people. And obviously, James Robinson can't do it alone, and they've been doing a good job from that aspect of it. But look, this is a passing league, and if you want to win, you got to be able to put a drive together in the fourth quarter. You got to protect your quarterback, and the tackles have not done a good enough job.
Something of note this week, at least. Jawan Taylor, the right tackle, has been on the injury report with a knee issue, limited Wednesday and Thursday. We'll see what tomorrow brings, of course, but that's of note this week on the offensive line. And to the point we were making and Doug made earlier, those guys in the run game, especially when you have a back like Robinson who runs where he's supposed to run, it helps those guys in the run game up front and the tackles included on that offensive line.
Well, James allows the offensive line to do their job, and he makes them better. And you go back and JP, early on, I was trying to think of somebody to compare James Robinson's running style to when we first saw him. And I'm not trying to say that, because a lot of people end up they blow this completely out of proportion. I don't want them to.
I can't wait.
No, but I said at the beginning that his style, the way he runs, is similar to Emmitt Smith. And by no means am I trying to say that James Robinson is Emmitt Smith. Just because I have great respect for Emmitt, played against Emmitt. He was very strong when he ran through the hole, but he was really efficient. And he had a lot of subtle movement. And when you watched Barry Sanders, and I played against Barry Sanders and got a couple fingers that are all jacked up because of Barry Sanders spinning away from me when I grabbed his jersey. But he would make these gigantic cuts to make people miss and to make things happen. With Emmitt, it was real subtle. And he was real efficient, and he was very powerful, and he finished run plays. And that's very much like James. And like I said, I'm not trying to say that he's going to be as good as the all-time leading rusher in NFL history, but the styles are similar, and offensive linemen love those styles. Look, Mark Stepnoski, one of my good friends that I played in the National Football League with, was a center for many years for the Dallas Cowboys. And Mark Tuinei, God rest his soul. And those guys all did a great job blocking. Nate Newton did a great job. And they all loved Emmett because he ran to where he was supposed to run. And James is very similar in that fashion.
Let's come back. One final segment. We'll wrap it up and get you ready for the Jags-Vikings game. It's the Doug Marone Show on Jaguars Radio.
Coach Doug Marone here, reminding all our Jaguar fans, don't fumble when it comes to driving. One text takes your eyes off the road for 5 seconds. And at 55 miles per hour, that's like driving the entire length of a football field with your eyes closed. To win while driving, you must focus. Keep your hands on the wheel, eyes on the road, and mind on driving. Put it down. Focus on driving. Brought to you by the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles and the Florida Highway Patrol.
At ViStar, we believe in better convenience, so members can bank any way they want, whether it's at a branch, on a mobile device, or at one of more than 20,000 fee-free ATMs across North America. We believe that people have better things to do with their time. If you believe that convenience is better, join ViStar. We never forget that it's your money. All loans subject to approval, insured by NCUA.
This football season, prepare your taste buds for the most iconic sports watching drink of all time, Pepsi. With refreshing deliciousness specially formulated to keep your eye on the ball and mouth-watering fizziness to help you power through game day, Pepsi has everything you need to start strong.
I used to care when Mike cheered so hard he spilled nacho cheese on my carpet, but thanks to Pepsi, even Mike can't ruin my football party.
So this football season, make Pepsi your go-to game day drink because it's the only drink made for football watching. Pepsi, that's what I like.
The wait for the holidays is over, America. It's time to make some joy. And we're here to help with the Ford Built for the Holidays sales event. We're offering the best deals of the season across the Ford lineup, so you can road trip with the whole family comfortably in a Ford Expedition. Bring home a tree that's bigger than you ever have with a built Ford Tough F-150. And find new ways to make the holidays bright this year when you visit your local Ford dealer. The joy is up to you, America, so let's get to it. Ford, built for the holidays.
Superior Fence and Rail knows about commercial fence services, from automatic gates to security fence and railing. Superior Fence and Rail's professional team delivers with great communication, trained installers, and quality products. Trust your next commercial project with a top-rated fence company in Jacksonville. Get off the fence and call Superior Fence and Rail for your commercial project today.
SuperiorFenceandRail.com. At most sandwich places, asking for more of something is just part of the drill. But what if you never had to ask for more? What if more was just a given? At Daly's, more is what our sandwiches are built on. More meat, more cheese, more veggies, more quality, more taste. All for a price that's anything but more. Sandwiches from Dash, made fresh. Daly's.
Welcome back to the HananiaAutos.com studio. The Doug Marone Show continues right now.
Welcome back. Final moments of the Doug Marone Show. JP Shadrick, Jeff Lageman, glad you're along with us. The Jags and the Vikings coming up Sunday, 1 o'clock, Week 13. 10-game losing skid for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Vikings are warming up. They've won 4 out of 5. They need this game to stay alive in the NFC wild card picture. The offense is getting on track in Minnesota, and the Jaguars are trying to figure some things out here. So this is a tough matchup. Let's just be honest, Logs. It really is.
Yeah, sure. It's a tough matchup, but JP, it's a matchup that I'm looking forward to because I want to see this James Robinson pass 1,000 yards. You know, he could do it this week, and it would be a tremendous accomplishment if he did so, and he's on pace to do something that's pretty historic in this National Football League because he could end up being the all-time greatest undrafted running back in a rookie season ever.
Yeah, he's on his way. There's no doubt about that. Over 1,100 scrimmage yards now for him. We'll see how high he can get, and his confidence level is there, certainly. So let's keep it going. All Access tonight, quickly. What you got?
Well, I've got me and Brent Martineau. We're going to talk to Josh Allen a little bit. Going to talk about the quarterback situation, the firing of Dave Caldwell. We'll also jump into the film room and take a look at the J-Rob effect and how it influenced the touchdown catch with Colin Johnson. And then we'll also have a little conversation with some surprise player in the locker room. And that's to be announced, JP.
Oh, I like that. That's coming up. Fox 30 TV
she does
in
a great
Jacksonville.
job with that. So
she does. She does a fantastic job. That's tonight on Fox 30, 7 o'clock. For head coach Doug Marone and Jeff Lageman and our entire crew, I'm JP Shadrick. Thank you for listening and for watching. This is the Doug Marone Show on the Jaguars Radio Network.